The next thing we've got to choose is how the video is saved on the computer. So I've set the size, now this is the codec or how it's saved. You've got various settings. If I click on there, you can see I've got uncompressed. Uncompressed is the best you're going to get, but it does eat up the space. At this particular size, it's probably about 300 or 400 gigabytes an hour. So you tend not to use that because it takes up huge amounts of space. The most commonly used ones are the two Grass Valley ones, HQ and HQX. HQ is an 8-bit codec. HQX is a 10-bit codec. Now, as I'm capturing at 8-bit, I'm going to use HQ because there's not a lot of point in converting it to 10-bit when it's only 8-bit coming in the first place. If I was to come in here and I choose one of the 10-bit settings, then I'd use HQX. Now, having set the HQ codec, if I just click on settings here, you get the usual settings for that as to how much you want to compress it. If you choose offline, it's going to look terrible. Standard, it's going to look pretty good. Personally, I always go for fine. Going for slightly higher quality means it's going to take up slightly more space, but not too much, and I like to go for fine over standard. Of course, you can set custom and then fiddle with these sliders, but I always go straight for fine. I get very good results with that. Talk about these other codecs in a minute. What kind of file do you want to create, an AVI or an MXF? Personally, I stick with AVIs because they're more compatible, more things understand AVIs than MXFs. You can choose MXF if you prefer. They're just ways of saving the video and the audio together, and I always use AVIs. There's this option to make up proxy files at the same time as capturing the full quality ones. I don't use that because A, I don't use proxies very much, and B, it just makes the capturing do two things at once, and I prefer to do one thing at a time. Down here you've got what the sound's going to be. Now on this particular gizmo I can capture up to 16 channels of sound, depending on how I plugged it in. So if I left it at the default, I'm going to capture it and there'll be 16 audio tracks with the video clip. My audio is actually coming in as stereo. The first 2 tracks will have sound on it, the rest won't. So in this case, it's stupid to capture 16 channels. I'll just have 14 channels of blank sound. And when you look at a clip in the bin, you'll throw it on the timeline and have all these extra bits of sound coming in there. So I always set that to 2 channels, which is what most of my sources have got. Obviously, if you're feeding it with more channels, then you just go up to higher. I personally like to set it to 2. Some devices, like the Blackmagic Intensity Pro, won't have the options for the extra channels. This thing, which says convert to 2 channel, basically will take whatever's in here and squeeze it down to 2 channels anyway. Now, no point in setting it because I've already said only capture 2 channels. But if I'd said capture 16 channels, this would convert it to having just 2 channels at the end, and it would just merge it all together. And frankly, if I'm going to capture 16 channels, I'm doing it because I'm feeding it with 16 channels, and I will decide what to do with them once I'm in EDIUS. I never ever use that. So most of my stuff is only 2 channels anyway. And obviously stereoscopic is, are you capturing stuff that's stereoscopic, which of course I'm not at the moment. That's set it up now to capture 1920 stuff into HQ with 2 channels of audio. Click on next. It comes up with this output hardware tab. I generally set that to nothing. The only time I've ever used this is to set up a way of recording to tape through DV, and I'm doing nothing to do with DV here. I don't need to do it. So as far as Blackmagic goes, just set it to not select and ignore it. Next, job done. Quick summary. Completed. I've now got a preset. What I then like to do is right click on it and then assign it to something. In this case I've already got the others assigned to somewhere, so I'm going to assign this to preset 5. And the reason I like to do that is when I come out of this box, if it's assigned, it then turns up in the list up here. So you can see that's number 5 is the Blackmagic 1920 by 1080. If I hadn't assigned it, then I'd have to click on this and then choose a preset from the list. So that's why I like to assign it, so it's easy to get to. I'm just going to click on that and it's going to open up the capture window. As you can see, there's me talking away. It asks you for a tape name. You can turn that off in the preferences if you don't want a tape name. And basically that's it. You're ready to capture. To capture, just click on the little tape icon here and you're off and capturing. You can do all the usual stuff. You can stop it, you can start it, you can add in markers, that kind of thing. When you're finished, press stop. The next time I want to capture some 1920 by 1080 footage, just come up to here, click on capture, choose the preset, it loads it up. Now suppose I'm coming through component instead of coming through HDMI, or I'm coming through SDI instead of HDMI. All you got to do is load up this little program and say what you're coming in through. Oh, I'm coming in through component now. Click on apply and then the screen here will change to show you whatever's coming in through the component. In my case, absolutely nothing, which is why it's frozen, because I'm connected via HDMI. I don't have to set up a capture preset for SDI or component or HDMI. I just set up one for 1920 by 1080 and change what the input is in this control panel. And obviously I do exactly the same thing for standard definition. So let's come back into the settings, Go to System, New. We're going to call this 4x3 SD. Next, choose the deck link. Choose a standard def setting, 4x3 DVD. Choose a compression format. Set the channels up. Don't set the hardware. Complete. Assign it to an input preset if you want to. And now I can come up here and I've got 4.3 SD as an option, so click on that. I'm now ready to capture 4x3 video. Now I'm not getting anything coming in because I don't actually have the camera connected. Now how do I know how I'm connected? Could it be composite? Could it be component? Could it be S-video? Again, come back to the Blackmagic control panel. Come in here and say, right, the input is now composite, or the input is now S-video, with whichever audio selections you're using, and then you'll see a picture up here.